Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a game between myself and Laumam, and it does feature some of the new techs, both from 2 patches ago with arc lights, especially the new shockwave tech and the entrenchment tech that I did feature in my previous video. So here we go. Now Laumam typically is known to be a very defensive player, and what happens this game is something that kind of shocked me, which is that he is going to be playing aggressive. Now of course he starts with, you know, these sabers, and he also has some hounds that he thinks about buying, which usually would indicate that he wants to go aggro, but I have seen him play this defensively and with fangs. That is perfectly viable too. So that's kind of what I was, you know, setting up for. My setup is not particularly terrible to try and, you know, defend with, but I wasn't really in the mind space to start defending here. Aggressive positioning, sabers very close to the line, and an all chaff setup from Laumam here. Doesn't go for the hounds after all, which is definitely a little bit unusual, as I am a fortified specialist here. I guess I'm not a marksman spec or anything, so when you see this, you tend to expect a Wraith on round 2 because the opponent is lacking chaff clear, and so chaff clear is what they should be buying on round 2, and it's likely they'll be buying a more expensive chaff clear unit that they couldn't afford on round 1. So Wraith is what I was expecting here. Opponent is a Typhoon specialist, so we could see some of that as well. And round 1 here, I just decided to go for some chaff. It does mean I don't really have a lot of damage. Sledgehammer Arclight, not exactly meant to take down these sabers, so I might end up losing still. In fact, I think I will, which is not amazing considering my opponent didn't buy any chaff clear, but I don't think the alternative is that much better. I could have gone for something like Marksman, but really, I would have rather gone for something like a Phoenix, because I feel like Marksman can struggle a lot into sabers early on. If you don't get the levels, and the sabers do, it's just a really bad time. So yeah, round 1 here actually does go kind of well, but the Sabertooth will clutch up, and so round 1 goes over to Laumam. I have a decent amount of hit points in this case, so we should be somewhat fine. Round number 2, we do get the Marksman after all, so I'm not a Marksman spec, but I could be with this level 3 Marksman pickup. It does seem like the best thing in this case. Void Eye would be another option, but I kind of need to think about anti-air, and while I was thinking about buying a Phoenix on round 2, if I get, you know, a high-level Marksman like this, and I'm still missing chaff, I don't mind going for the chaff here. I am missing crawlers, so you will see me buy some of those to try and really punish the lack of chaff clear from my opponent, and just put stuff in the way. I sell my second turret because it's not on the correct side of the board, and honestly this turret here just was dying too quick, and I think it is not worth defending. It would require too many resources, so instead I go for a crawler, a sledgehammer here on the outside of the tower to protect against this particular saber, and then an arclight as well to chaff clear. Now, opponent playing very aggressive goes for the Rhino on my right side tower, and also for a flank to pull away my fangs, which means that the tower will be opened up. And he goes for that Typhoon. Unexpected. It's not very common to see people go for Typhoons this early. They can be decent chaff clear, but they tend to somewhat struggle sometimes in the early game. We'll have to see how things go here. Sabertooth levels immediately. That is very scary. This unit is still ridiculously tanky in my opinion for a starter unit. If it levels, it tends to just completely dominate the early game, because there are few things at, you know, 100 and 200 cost that can effectively take out a level 2 Sabertooth. And yeah, that did scare me somewhat. Round number 3, we get a nano repair kit as well, which makes things even worse. Yeah, that is basically the nightmare that you do not want to face when the opponent is playing Saber Push. Insta level into like a heavy armor or nano repair is just a real pain to deal with, because you don't want to buy a melting point here. It's kind of too expensive in the first place. And so the only thing that seemed somewhat logical to me was to try and go for sabers of my own, because funnily enough, Sabertooth is actually pretty good into itself, right? It loves shooting at these ground-based targets that are very tanky and that only come in a pack of 1, and that's exactly what Sabertooth is itself. So I decided to go for that. I thought, well, he's pushing into me, so maybe I can play some field entrenchment here at some point and, you know, hopefully take out his saber. But yeah, that is a real annoying unit there. Not sure how to deal with that other than hope that, you know, my chaff clear is better and I managed to take care of all of the enemy units. I also put a Sabertooth here on the right side of my right tower to try and deal with this Rhino. which gets beaconed over, but I think we should still be able to grab, to kill it. And I also go for an arc light to deal with that crawler flank, which evens out the deployments. And well, I get to have this deployment that's kind of useful, and he loses his. It does make me, you know, deploy a bunch on the right side, which means that the left side doesn't necessarily get that much stronger. And as a result, you can see I am lacking some chaff, right? Ideally, I would have a crawler here or a fang to block the saber, but I don't really have the deployments for it. And so, yeah, the saber tooth crushes my arc light, which means some part of my chaff clear on the left side goes down, and it will just be a round victory. I did kind of expect to lose this, right? Again, there's not much I can do here about this saber tooth. It is just going to be dominant in the next couple of rounds, but hopefully I can diminish the damage taken somewhat, and my right side is still doing well. I do get a tower debuff, which doesn't achieve much, but if we can get rid of anything or everything, apart from that one saber, I think it is a positive outcome for us. And yeah, we are going to get stuck on the saber. It is just going to heal through all of my saber tooth damage, but that's not the biggest, you know, deal in the world. We do get a Rhino assault here. I thought, well, it's probably worth trying to go for that tower. It is relatively undefended, and I could really use a debuff here to get back some tempo. Shield airdrop instead is picked up for Laomam. Again, kind of an annoying spell. Could use that over here to start building a shallow flank. I am trying to do something about it by building a saber tooth on the left here. Also putting a fang on that left side to try and block the saber, but Laomam understands that that will likely happen, and so now suddenly there are 2 more Typhoons. It is the power spike round for my opponent, and his chaff clear is pretty well rounded. I'm gonna go for Shockwave in this case first, because my opponent's already had a lot of chaff, and a big problem with Typhoon's late game is that when they get shield, your arc lights tend to get stuck on the shields and they don't chaff clear anymore. So I feel like Shockwave is really important. In the end, it looks like I do go back to range enhancement, because I was like, well, if I go for Shockwave, it probably does solve some of my issues, but at the same time, if I don't have range, my arc lights will die quick. So, you know, ideally I have both techs. I will just go for range for now. There are likely no shields on the Typhoons, which is good for me, and then next round we can try and go for the Shockwave. Let's see how things go here. Sadly, my Sabertooth does end up dying on the left. Doesn't achieve too much. And yeah, Saber in the middle, same thing. This is the hard part about playing Sabertooth into Sabertooth, right? You're playing it because your opponent has a very tanky Saber that leveled with an item, but it will just fight back harder, right? It can tank multiple shots. It's now going to be level 3, and it basically one-shots all of my level 1 Sabers. So I am in some real trouble at this point. And I think the only thing I can really do is get that Shockwave tech on the arc lights and try to build more Sabers. Looks like in the end I didn't go for that Sabertooth on the left. I really wanted to try and get some arc light techs going because there's a lot of chaff, and this is still extremely meta right now. There was a patch today, I believe, but it hasn't really changed, I think, much about that. I might try out the culling tech, so perhaps there will be a video about that in the upcoming days. But still, right, like building a lot of chaff on aggro is exceptionally powerful. Here again, right, double crawl around, level on that Sabertooth, mech rage on the Typhoons, grabbing the level on top of things. I am elite recruiting the Sabers here, and now I finally go for Entrenchment, hoping that I can perhaps lock on to that enemy Saber. Another flank comes in here with the crawler, trying to distract my Saber. I am trying to position them a bit further up so that they don't turn immediately for this type of flank, and also perhaps they can get some insta-locks on the Saber, because the Saber hitbox is going to be extended because of the shield. And so this way my Sabertooth should be able to lock on. Looks like it doesn't want to though. Retargets immediately. Goes for the Typhoons, which isn't too bad for me either, but I am going to lose one of my Sabers now because I am locked onto. Do I fight back? I do. That's not a terrible result. It is going to heal back some of its hit points, but only need to hit it one more time now. Okay, there we go. We managed to get rid of it. Can this Sabertooth perhaps even level? It very well might. Takes down that Saber as well, level 2, and will be able to level. So I now have managed to somehow, you know, recuperate the loss of levels. And I have a Sabertooth that's level 3 of my own. It has taken some techs, because I did like double shot and Entrenchment. but I have finally managed to take down this big saber tooth from my opponent. Round number 6, not too interesting in terms of unit reinforcements. I could grab Mustang, but Mustang isn't that good into the crawlers, and at the time this game was played, it was still like the unbuffed culling rounds, and I just don't think it's that good. So I was more so thinking about just using the resources here to, you know, get my level ups, get Shockwave on my arc lights, and that is pretty much it. I could have picked the Scorpion, but the Scorpion kind of has a similar use as the other units. Actually, it does look like I go for them. Apologies. I guess I just use it as a one-turn thing. I am planning to sell it because it overlaps with my sabers, right? My sabers should be able to kill all of these units just fine as long as they lock on. But the Scorpion is worth a lot of resources, and I can use it for like one round in this aggressive positioning to try and get rid of that Typhoon. I was kind of hoping he wouldn't add a saber, and it looks like he won't. So that way I hopefully do get some good value out of this. I managed to get another round win. 2 more crawlers on my flank. I mean, this is getting very much out of control. Now that I think about it, I could have potentially gone for like a replicate play. That wouldn't have been too bad, because I do get some guaranteed value from this, and this crawler. But I would have had to invest into more crawlers myself. Subterranean Blitz comes out. Classic tech. Best tech on crawlers by a landslide right now. I would say very, very scary, especially with double defense enhancement. There isn't much that can clear that effectively, aside from something like, you know, Wraith or Hound, if it's a fully skilled Hound board. We're doing quite well here. The Scorpion did a decent job of stalling. We also killed that big saber on the left side. This one will go down, and my saber is just an absolute unit, right? The bonus stats that you gain from Entrenchment are really, really insane. Like, you just gain so much. That Sabertooth, over 60,000 hit points, just doesn't go down. And suddenly, Laomam is down to 1,600, and we have over 1,000 hit point lead. So, bit of a rocky start, but I think, you know, Entrenchment is definitely proving itself as a very solid tech in these type of defensive situations. More sabers now get picked up. I am planning to sell this Scorpion, which I do. Retrieve all of the resources, and now I can go for some Arclight levels. Now, at this stage, I felt like Chaff Clear could be a problem for me, so I was looking to maybe pull away some of the enemy units. That's why I go for this deep flank. In hindsight, I'm not convinced I like this as much. I think on round 7, I probably should have just clicked range enhancement on my sabers and not bother with this type of play, because now it's just like really, really awkward, right? I go for this cheese attempt by beaconing in the Phoenixes, hoping that my opponent doesn't put anything over here, but it's kind of likely that he will do that at this stage on round 7, especially with the Scorpion, right, being there, so he needs to answer it. So, yeah, not a big fan of this play. I think I definitely wasted some deployments, which on a crucial round, right, this late, is just going to put you in a bunch of trouble. This should have just been probably 2 more sabers or some chaff, and potentially even range enhancements on Sabertooth. But this is the play that I try to go for with a missile as well, to try and kill anything that might be, you know, in the way. But we can already see that this is very likely not going to pan out the way that I was hoping it would. But yeah, at this stage, I'm just scared, right, of the underground threat, or the subterranean blitz, rather. I know how powerful these crawlers are, and even though I did win a nice round, you know, last round, I think it also partially was because of that aggressive Scorpion positioning, which isn't going to work twice. And this time around, you can really see the power, right, of these units pushing in. Just so much stats in between the level 2 Typhoons with the barriers, the double shot sabers, which Laomam now also picked up. And yeah, this is not going well at all. I don't get the debuff on the right side, which is basically all I was going for with all the deployments I used. So not a good round for me, and I immediately get punished for it. And at this point, I am not too sure, right, what I need to do to fix this, because I can't kill the crawlers, and there's no good way for me to do so. I think Wraith is just going to be too expensive. I would need a range and 8 gun at bare minimum, and these Typhoons at level 2 with Mech Rage are perfectly capable of killing the Wraith. So, you know, what is it? Just more chaff? I kind of need more chaff over here as well to try and block this saber from insta-locking onto my units. Some sledgehammers could be useful. I decided to just go for a sledgehammer play again here on the top left. I do have a Rhino as well to block. Maybe I can get a late debuff. And if I can pull away some of the chaff, then that's less crawlers that my Arclights need to kill. Ion Blast shows up. You have to pick it at this stage of the game. That's just a must-have, right? You do get a beacon backwards from Laomam to try and avoid it, but I have positioned it in such a way that I just guarantee some value. I usually like to do this when I think my opponent might beacon. Just try and go for the units that are less likely to get beaconed and get some value at least out of the Ion Beam. Now we get a right side push. Somewhat expected as well. I think I do level the tower, maybe even grab second attack enhancement. And hopefully this saber can do something. It is level 1, which is a bit scary. And these are level 2 with mech rage. So not convinced that I can hold on, but we will have to see. Also aggressive missile. Very good play, right, from my opponent. This is what you should do when a spell shows up like this on aggro. Switch things up, use the beacon, and go on the side where you didn't have many resources, right? Go onto that tower to try and avoid the spell. I will say that his spell doesn't land very well. It could have been aimed a lot better. The sabers just are safe. The shield did its job. But do we have enough? We now have late crawlers arriving. I still need some Arclights. Looks like I do have a few left alive though. And if the sabers just stay entrenched, they are going to do a great job here at cleaning up the rest of the field. All of the enemy sabers looks to have died, except perhaps this one, but I don't think it has range yet. No, it doesn't. So we do come out ahead, which was a bit surprising because I think the Ion Beam should have been better for my opponents, but just slightly missed the targets. And now, perhaps, you know, one more round, oil comes back next turn. We could get a win. Orbital Bombardment shows up. Again, must pick. It will help me somewhat with my chaff clear, so perhaps it's not that bad. The scary bit is that it's going to be hard for me to shield, because the opponent is just pushing in so quick that he tends to just break my shields instantly. And we get a third tech on the Typhoons with homing missile now picked up. And at this point, I felt like there's two things I can do, right? Either I need to like range my sabers. My opponent didn't have range yet, but he does grab it this turn. And I guess that's kind of the downside of Entrenchment. Like, you kind of need that triple tech. I think normally range and entrench could be fine, but I need a double shot in this particular game because of the heavy leveling. Also need to go for a bunch of missiles, which I do happen to go for, and I just buy more sabers in this case. But it doesn't leave me with any money to go for the range enhancement. I also put a Fang down to try and block the Sabertooth from locking on, but my opponent is also missiling all my chaff in return. Very hard for me to do anything about this. I can't really shield over the chaff because it'll get instantly popped by the double shot, and then the orbital will wreak havoc on my chaff anyway. So yeah, I just kind of have to accept this. And let's see how things go. I was a bit afraid he might push in more heavily on the right side, so that's where I put my sabers, but turns out he beacons everything to the left now. And yeah, I guess wrong on what was going to happen. He also has that range advantage over me with the sabers, so the entrenchment here, not too useful. We'll lose my left side tower, and I just don't think there's enough for me here to win the round. 1254 hit points. Maybe I can survive if my sabers take down a few more units, but again, that is going to be very tough with all of these Typhoons still alive, and the long range on the sabers, that will just be game. So yeah, very aggressive push there, tough to deal with, and Laomam does get the win. So in terms of what I could have done, right, round 7 I think is crucial. I shouldn't go for a debuff here. It's very likely that because of this aggressive positioning, my opponent is going to put stuff over here, which makes this diagonal not really available anymore. And I should just, you know, with the cell from this, make sure I get all the techs I need on Saber. Grab range, probably. And just play it that way, alright? Get more chaff and don't waste deployments. So we could try and replay that. I don't know if I can win here or not, but it is worth a try. None of this is too interesting, although Amplifying Core maybe is worth picking up now that I think about it. There's a lot of extra stats. Let's grab range here on the sabers. I think it is worth loaning. There weren't any spells. I should probably just missile these to get rid of all of the chaff. And then just buy more sabers, right? Maybe we do buy another crawler. Or maybe even a fang. Both are fine. And then 2 more sabers, I think, would be lovely. Perhaps do something like this. Could level all of these dudes as well. Don't mind that too much. Let's just go for that. And then I'm going to give this to my big saber. Maybe I should give it to one of the sabers in the middle. There is an argument to be made for that as well. I am maybe going to put a missile here. Not entirely sure. I think we are probably fine though on the right. Maybe it's just a level. Call it a day. See what happens. But yeah, with range, I mean, you can already see the massive difference, right? I lock on to some of the important units. That's 1 Typhoon gone. 2 Typhoons gone. Chaff clear is still a bit of a problem, but if I can lock on here, that would be very useful. So I do have that tankiness advantage. But man, my Arclights are struggling in this case. It's going a bit better. Still do struggle. I think it's just like the sheer amount of crawlers that come in on this particular round is very tough to deal with. But I do clean up a little bit better than I did on the previous round. And I think at this point, my setup is just a bit more well-rounded. And I would have less problems trying to deal with the enemy units. Now, on round number 9, on the final round, I think there are some things I could have done as well. Notably, this right side tower is pretty exposed. I would have to grab this. Oh, wait, I need to go back to my own board. And I am going to grab that orbital bombardment. I think that is kind of a non-negotiable. Go for something like this. I do need shields, of course. And I do need a fang here, probably, to try and at least block. Go for temp range, temp speed, and then let's go for a flank on the right side, since I did have Phoenixes unlocked, and try to punish this. Now, this is, you know, a bit of a risky play, but I think at this point I am somewhat forced to go for risky plays. I can't really afford to go for, you know, the safest things. I just need to kind of gamble and hope that I'm right. So, missile all of these units. I could sell the sledgehammer, probably, and I could, like, make a guess that he's just going to push in on the left side. That is something that I could try. I could level all of my sabers. I could also give them range. Both, I would say, are fine. So let's just go for this, level that, and perhaps grab this level up here. And let's see what happens. The missiles are kind of rough. So he does manage to get a lock on here immediately, but maybe with the extra hit points, I'll be okay. We do have also some really late chaff coming in. I think the pools are doing a good job, though. At least cleaning up. Double shot not quite working out there for me, but I am holding on, and I should get a debuff. My Sabertooth manages to live, which is a big deal. Fights back. And I would have won. Now, this is a very... Is that even lethal? I think it might have been. If I go back to watch the replay, 1,000 damage. And it would have been lethal. So, I could have won. I think some of the stuff that I'm doing there is very risky, but at the end of the day, at this stage of the game, with, you know, fully skilled Typhoons and all of these subterranean crawlers coming in, it's just very difficult for Arclights to win that. So I think I should have just tried to go for this right side play. Notice that I am kind of ignoring, right, a potential right side push from Lao Mam, so there is some gambling going on, but that was probably like the best, you know, I could have done. Try and gamble for a sneaky win. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about it. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.